Hello everybody, my name is Brianna Velo and I'm a meteorologist here with the National Weather Service office in Grand Junction, Colorado, and this is your September 2025 monthly weather summary. So starting off with our story of the month, when you think of severe weather, you don't typically think of the month of September. You think of May or June or even July out here because of the monsoon, but you don't typically think of September. This September didn't care. Particularly during the week of the 8th through the 13th, we saw several rounds of severe weather across the western slope. We had multiple days of hail here in the Grand Valley. We had severe warned storms all over the area. I happened to get caught in one. I was on vacation, I had family visiting, and we were heading out into Utah, and we had a tight schedule, so there was no way of getting around this thing. But when you have two meteorologists and a pilot in the car, you know what to do when you see a severe thunderstorm coming at you. So we pulled off the road, we waited, we collected some hail, we called it in because it was severe hail, it was an inch or better, and then we continued on our way. And on one hand, I feel a little bit bad that I was on vacation while everybody else here in the office was dealing with all of this severe weather, and also I missed out on it. On the other hand, I had a really good weekend. But to prove the point, on the 13th, that ended up kind of being a surprise big day. We were supposed to be on the backside of the system. Things were supposed to be clearing out. We were supposed to see at best some stratiformy rain. That didn't happen. I was in canyons and arches that day with my family, and we got some pretty impressive hail, some pretty impressive rain rates. There were several flash flood warnings out across the area. We actually got the notification for the Deer Creek burn scar, which had gotten warned on from these storms. And of course, we had our tornadoes. So there were actually two tornadoes in southeast Utah on the afternoon of the 13th. There was one that was very brief. It touched down, didn't really do any damage, didn't really go anywhere, went back up into the cloud. So that one ended up being rated as an EF unknown, as there was nothing to rate this tornado with. The EF, or Enhanced Fujita scale, is based off of damage rather than radar estimated wind speeds, which really didn't help us in this case that much anyway, because this is so far from our radar, which is already sitting at 10,000 feet, that we were sampling way up into the storm. But it was actually strong enough with the second one, a strong enough rotational couplet, that we could actually see it on our radar, which is incredibly impressive. And it was the second tornado that actually received all of the attention. This one ended up being rated as an EF2, which, based on what I just said, will make you realize that yes, it did cause some damage. It damaged a couple of houses and took out several outbuildings. So it was rated as an EF2 with estimated peak winds of 120 miles per hour. It really didn't go that far. Its path length was about a mile. It basically dropped down and kind of stayed right there, which meant it was an extremely photogenic tornado, especially across southeast Utah. It's relatively flat down there compared to up here in the Grand Junction area, or out into the mountains where there's a lot of terrain to block your view. And this was a high-paced thunderstorm because that's typically what we get out here. So this thing could be seen for miles around. We received photos, we received video, you name it, we got it. People were calling it in. Definitely an impressive event. And that's also, on its own, having an EF2 tornado is impressive. We average one tornado a year, which tends to be more of we have some years where we have a couple and we have some years where we have nothing. This is turning out to be one of those years where we have a couple, because this is now the third or fourth tornado we've had this year, and the second EF2 we've had this year. If you remember a couple months back, the story of the month was the fire tornado on the Deer Creek burn scar that was also rated as an EF2. So it's definitely been an interesting year severe weather-wise. Because the western slope, yeah, we see some severe weather, but it's typically nothing like you see out in the plains or even just across the Rockies and the outside of Denver. This has definitely been interesting. So moving on to our more typical data roundup-y section of this video, we have the highest highs of the month, where our highest high temperature was 95 degrees, which occurred in Canyonlands on the 2nd, and our highest high was 81, which occurred in Aspen on the 3rd. And you can see that the vast majority of these were clustered right around that second, third time frame. We're moving into the cooler season now. Our daily averages are dropping by, in some cases, whole degrees every day. So you would expect to see the warmest temperatures occur at the beginning of the month. And that's not even considering the fact that, like, with each system that we have come through now that we're moving out of monsoony season and into more winter storm season, we'll see those temperatures drop considerably each time, sort of like a stair step. The only exception is Montrose, who managed to tie their highest high on the 10th. So that was behind, or rather, that was ahead of the mid-month system that brought us all that severe weather, in fact. And as you'll see on the next slide, behind that system, we got pretty cold. So our lowest lows for the month, the lowest low we saw was 31 degrees, which occurred in Aspen on the 24th, and the lowest low was 49 in Canyonlands on the 14th. And so you can see, as I mentioned, like these temperatures are kind of clustered in two different groups. So you've got the one in the teens, and then you've got the ones closer to the end of the month. And that really, again, has to do with that sort of stair-step pattern I was talking about, where we had that system move through from the 8th to the 13th, brought all that severe weather. Behind it, we got a surge of much colder air, dropped the bottom. We saw some really cold temperatures, and then we warmed up a little bit again. And then we had another system at the end of the month, drop the bottom, and now we're seeing temperatures dropping below the freezing point. And I expect, as I'm recording this, we have another system on the doorstep. I would expect to see that happen again, where we kind of drop the bottom out again, and we see even lower temperatures. Precipitation-wise, you'd think with all the severe weather and thunderstorms we had this month that this would look a little bit better. And in the mountains, it probably does. That's just unfortunately with convectivity systems, and even with our non-convectivity, more like widespread precipitation systems, the mountains tend to do better simply because they are mountains. Air likes to converge and gets extra lift from going up them. That tends to enhance precipitation. And also another contributing factor is the fact that September is climatologically, like statistically, our wettest month. Believe it or not, it's our wettest month. And I believe that has, don't quote me on this, but my best guess is it has to do with the fact that it's sort of a convergence point between the end of monsoon season and the beginning of like winter storm track season. And so you're getting all that moisture from two different sources. And so it kind of just enhances each other. But our big winner was Meeker, who ended the month with just over 2.7 inches of precipitation, which is an inch and change above normal. And in any other month, I would say yay for Meeker. But unfortunately, that much precipitation was not the best thing to have happen, because we have the fresh Lee burn scar right there outside of Meeker, and it did run several times this month. We did have several debris flows and flash flooding events associated with that. So unfortunately, Meeker being the big winner was maybe not the best thing this month. But moisture is moisture, and we'll be grateful for it. At the bottom here, we have Vernal, who managed to get 0.34 inches of precipitation in the month, which was almost 9/10 of an inch below normal. But I'm still going to say yay for Vernal, because if you've been following these videos for a while, you'll remember back in the spring where there were several months in a row where Vernal could only manage to get a total of a trace of precipitation for the entire month. So any month where Vernal actually makes it out with measurable precipitation is a reason to say yay Vernal. Grand Junction did pretty well. They got within 0.2 of an inch of normal, coming in just under an inch. Aspen also got pretty close to normal, being just 0.05 of an inch below normal at close to 1.4 inches. Canyonlands actually got hit normal on the nose. They ended perfectly normal with 0.89 inches with no departure to speak of, so good for them. Looking at our drought update, we did, with the moisture that we did get, even if we did end of the month mostly below normal, at least as far as our 10 climate sites are concerned, we did see some drought improvement. We have nibbled away at these areas of D3 extreme drought, even though they are still here. And we've even seen a return of some pockets of D1 moderate drought across portions that have seen more substantial precipitation. So this is kind of that Meeker area I was talking about. This is the Uncompahgre Plateau, where we saw quite a bit of training precipitation over the course of the month. And the mountains obviously have been doing better than some of the lower elevations. So not the best drought update in the world, but it's better than when we had exceptional D4 drought across this entire area. So we'll take it, and we'll hope for a wetter winter, and we'll hope that we can keep nibbling away at all of this drought. But unfortunately, as far as our drought tendency outlook is concerned, the Climate Prediction Center is expecting drought to persist across the entire area where there is currently drought, which is the entire area. We'll see. I mean, we're pretty close to some pockets of drought removal likely, so a lot of it's really going to depend on how well this transition to the more winter storm tracky pattern goes, what kind of influence the expected La Nina has on our winter, which, just real quick, like La Nina patterns tend to favor the southern mountains over the northern mountains. Or no, I got that backwards. La Nina patterns tend to favor the northern mountains because the storm track gets shifted further north, where El Nino patterns tend to favor the southern mountains a little bit more. That being said, there's not a very strong signal for ENSO, El Nino, and La Nina here in western Colorado. There are other parts of the country where ENSO has a much more significant impact. And also, another thing is that we use ENSO as a predictor simply because it's relatively consistent and it's on a small enough time scale that we can really measure the impacts in a way that we can't with some of the longer scale ocean atmosphere interactions that I'm not going to get real technical here, but so think of ENSO is one that we know and we can predict, but it's layered on top of multiple other much longer scale ocean temperature scenarios, basically, similar to ENSO, but on longer scales, that also have an impact on our weather. And having that ENSO layered on top of these other different interactions can actually mean that what you think is going to happen with a La Nina or an El Nino can go the total opposite direction or do something totally else entirely. So ENSO is a great place to start, but it's not the be-all end-all. And even when you do have a strong signal, and so that is even when you have a strong signal, and we don't even have a strong signal out here, so we'll see. And speaking of outlooks, here is what the Climate Prediction Center is thinking for the month of October for eastern Utah and western Colorado. So as far as temperatures are concerned, there is really only a slight tendency towards above normal temperatures. So this is a 33 to 40% tendency towards seeing above normal temperatures. Anything above 33% is considered statistically significant, essentially. So, and northeast Utah, far northwestern Colorado are looking at equal chances of seeing either above or below normal temperatures. So that one could go either way, or we could see just normal temperatures. And there's a little bit of a higher tendency across southwest Colorado and along the divide. So this is 40 to 50% tendency towards above normal temperatures. The higher the tendency is, the more likely you are to see it. So having these slightly lower tendencies means that there is still a chance that it'll go a different way. And these are also outlooks for the whole month. What happens on an individual day or week basis is going to average out to something probably above normal temperatures. And as far as precipitation is concerned, they're seeing equal chances of above or below normal precipitation. So we could see potentially a wetter September or a drier September. We could see October rather. We could also see a nice normal October with normal precipitation levels, normal snowpack accumulations, and that would be really, really nice. Because if we can at least get above normal would be best, but if we could at least get a normal month, we can start really nibbling away at that drought. We can start really building that snowpack, which will be important in a couple of months and important on how next year goes as far as drought is concerned. So we'll have to wait and see. This could have been a lot worse. The Climate Prediction Center could have analyzed and said, we're thinking you're going to be below normal as far as precipitation is concerned. So we'll take equal chances. That's it for the September summary. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you weren't bored. I hope I didn't talk too much, and I will see you again in a month for the October summary, and hopefully we'll have some good news. Hopefully we'll have seen cooler temperatures and increased precipitation, but we'll find out. Have a good one, everybody.